Doctor Strange 2 has been confirmed. We've got to talk about this production, when we're going to actually see this movie, and what it might mean for the future of the MCU after Avengers Endgame. We are breaking it all down. This is the Nerdy News Rundown. Let's get you filled in. What's up, everybody? Happy Wednesday! Now, before we get into this crazy story, I need to shout out A. Goodwin, who got the nerd card question correct from my video yesterday. You definitely know your stuff when it comes to Marvel, so shout out to you, A. Goodwin, and we'll do another nerd card question at the end of this video. Oh, and to everyone who's calling out spelling, if I put up a nerd card shout out and they misspell the word, guys, spelling doesn't count. That's just because I'm a terrible speller and I always got docked points for spelling when I was younger. So, spelling doesn't count at the Den of Nerds. All right, so let's get into this. The Hollywood Reporter is saying that Doctor Strange 2 has been confirmed. The production is going to move ahead. Scott Derrickson will come back as the director, and I think actually probably a co-writer, depending on who they get to do the script. We know Benedict Cumberbatch is coming back. There were actually reports in the middle of the summer about Benedict Cumberbatch coming back for Doctor Strange 2, and the big increase in payment that he was actually going to get for that role. But back then, we didn't know for sure that Doctor Strange 2 was going to be moving into production, but there was some talk about Benedict Cumberbatch's contract for his next role as Doctor Strange after Avengers Endgame. Now, THR is reporting that they are currently looking for someone to pen the first draft of the script, and just from what they have been told from their sources, they expect the production to begin in the middle of next year and possibly have the film shooting in 2020 and then release in 2021. I actually think we can move that a little bit faster. I especially believe this because Guardians of the Galaxy 3 being delayed and Marvel having this kind of plan for what they want to do with their stories. I think they want Doctor Strange 2 to take place in 2020, and they'll sort of streamline the production, but I'll get into more of that in just a second. And if you thought we were doing an episode of the Nerdy News Rundown without me speculating about my shattered multiverse theory, you're wrong. I'm going to do that right now. Now, Benedict Cumberbatch is one of the only actors that got the scripts for both Infinity War and Endgame. He knows exactly how that movie's going to take place, and because he's integral to the way I think it will end, that's probably why he was given that script. Also, when asked about Doctor Strange 2 earlier in the year, Benedict Cumberbatch said something to the effect of those plans are already in motion. He already knows what's going to happen. He can't speculate on when Doctor Strange 2 will be coming out, because the grand plan is always in flux, but he knows that there's a plan, he knows how these movies end, and I believe he knows what's going to be happening in the next phase of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now, right now, the big speculation with regards to this story all has to do with what the villain will be for this next movie. Of course, Mordo was teased as a villain in the post-credit scene of the first Doctor Strange movie. Baron Mordo in the comics, big time nemesis for Doctor Strange, so it's likely to head in that direction. However, there were a lot of stories about different writers and Scott Derrickson himself talking about their desire to do Nightmare. Actually, Nightmare was considered as the villain for the very first Doctor Strange movie, but they thought that'd be just too weird of an idea to drop on audiences in the first installment. And he's kind of like a Freddy Krueger type of character in the Marvel comics. He has invaded Earth before and put people into perpetual states of nightmare and try to cross over from his dimension into ours, very similar to Dormammu. So I think that they might even do a combination of these two. Some people think that they might work up a scenario in which Mordo and Nightmare work together to try to thwart Doctor Strange. That could be really cool. Now, again, I think either way you slice it, there's going to be some way bigger cosmic type event going on in the background. I am really convinced that this is what's going to be happening in Phase 4, and them doing Doctor Strange 2 within the first year or two of Phase 4, especially if they streamline this film for 2020, totally solidifies for me that this multiversal threat is going to be continued to be teased throughout this next phase. Doctor Strange is the perfect person to continue to talk about these sort of things. I mean, he introduced the multiverse to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He used time travel to set up Endgame. He will likely have a big to-do with how they actually defeat Thanos in Endgame. And so this is the perfect character for this type of a story to be teased. Now, classically, the MCU does a very good job of making villains in their movies, especially their solo movies, focus on that character. Like, that's the focus for the conflict within that movie, and yet it still ties in to a bigger, wider, larger threat. I mean, the Tesseract and Loki in the first Avengers ties into the Infinity Gauntlet, which we eventually get in Infinity War. So I think similarly, you will have this sort of background thing or a connection with either Nightmare Immorta or whatever villain they do to the multiverse and to the sort of collapsing of the multiverse, which I think will be the way we get to Secret Wars in Phase 4 of the MCU. Either way, that is the news out there, guys. The Hollywood Reporter is confirming that Doctor Strange 2 is going into production. Scott Derrickson is back. Benedict Cumberbatch is going to be back. And threw in a little speculation on what I think this means for Phase 4 of the MCU. But let me know what you think about this. Are you super pumped for Doctor Strange 2? What villain do you think they're going to do? Which way do you think they'll go with that? And do you agree that this is yet again another sign at this multiverse shattered dimension type thing that Marvel will likely be doing after Avengers Endgame? Or am I just off my rocker? Whatever you're thinking, let me know in the comment section below. All right, let's check that nerd card before we get out of here. I want to know what comic book was the first appearance of Baron Mordo. That's right. What issue of what comic did that character first show up in? Answer that question in the comment section below. As I always say, guys, I hope you are having an awesome and nerdy day, and I will see you in the next video. By the way, I'm thinking about doing a live stream later on today, just another fan chat where we're going to be hanging out talking about Marvel. So let me know in the comment section, would you be down for that? Should we save it for another day? Let me know your thoughts about that.